3.5 million. That's the number of enemy soldiers these 5 American generals eliminated between 1941 and 1945. Not wounded, not captured, killed. Over 1,100 generals served during World War II. But only 5 of them achieved body counts so staggering that opposing forces altered their entire strategy upon learning these men were operating in their sector. Today, we're ranking them. Number 5 maneuvered an entire army faster than intelligence could track. Number 3 commanded more troops than any general in U.S. history. Number 2 isn't who you expect. And number 1 killed more enemy soldiers than the other 4 combined. This isn't about medals or Hollywood portrayals. This is about verified combat statistics, documented enemy losses, and the stark mathematics of who won engagements while sustaining the fewest casualties. Let's count down the 5 most lethal American generals of World War II. But before we begin, if you want to see who claims the number 1 spot, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube to recommend this content to more history enthusiasts like you. And subscribe so you never miss our rankings. Now, let's start with number 5, Lieutenant General Lucien Truscott. Here's what you need to know about Lucien Truscott. In August 1944, Allied command estimated it would take 90 days to capture southern France and link up with forces advancing from Normandy. Truscott accomplished it in 28 days, not 30, not 35, 28. The German 19th Army, a force of 285,000 troops, was supposed to slow him down. Instead, Truscott's 6th Corps moved so rapidly that German intelligence believed they were tracking 3 separate American armies. They weren't just one general who grasped something every other commander missed. Speed kills more effectively than firepower. Truscott developed a tactic called the Truscott Trot, a forced march pace of 5 miles per hour carrying full combat gear. Standard Army doctrine was 2.5 miles per hour. His infantry divisions moved twice as fast as anyone else in the European theater. That may not sound significant until you consider the operational implications. German commanders planned defensive positions based on typical American unit movements. Truscott's men arrived 24 hours earlier than German calculations predicted. Defensive lines were incomplete. Artillery wasn't registered. Reserves weren't positioned. By the time German units reacted, Truscott was already 20 miles past them. In Operation Dragoon, the invasion of southern France, Truscott's forces advanced 400 miles in 4 weeks. The German 19th Army suffered 7,000 killed, 22,000 wounded, and 79,000 captured. But here's the decisive number. Truscott's 6th Corps endured the lowest casualty rate per mile advanced of any American corps in the European theater. He eliminated more enemies while losing fewer of his own men than comparable commanders. That wasn't luck, it was tactical brilliance. German forces gave units under Truscott's command a nickname, Gester Army, Ghost Army. You'd identify their location on a map, and by the time you redeployed to counter them, they were gone 40 miles away, already striking your next defensive line. German officers who fought Truscott echoed the same sentiment in post-war interviews. Once you realized Truscott was in your sector, you had 2 options. Retreat immediately or lose your entire command. There was no middle ground. Most Americans have never heard of Lucien Truscott, but the Germans who faced him never forgot his name. Number 4, Lieutenant General James Gavin. James Gavin was the only American general in World War II to jump directly into combat with the first wave of paratroopers, not observing from headquarters, not arriving after objectives were secured. He jumped first. At 1:51 a.m. on June 6, 1944, Gavin stood in the doorway of a C-47 over Normandy and led his division into the largest amphibious invasion in history. He was 36 years old, a brigadier general commanding the assault elements of the 82nd Airborne Division. He landed 4 miles from his drop zone with just a pistol, a knife, and 12 scattered paratroopers. By dawn, he had captured Sainte Marguerite, the first French town liberated on D-Day. Here's why Gavin ranks 4th. He pioneered vertical envelopment warfare. Drop behind enemy lines, seize critical objectives before the enemy realizes you are there, and hold those objectives regardless of casualties until relieved. The execution was anything but simple. Gavin's 82nd Airborne was supposed to be relieved 48 hours after D-Day. They held for 33 days against 5 German divisions. The division lost 5,245 men killed, wounded, or missing, yet they held every single objective, every bridge, every crossroads, every town. German forces attempting to counterattack the invasion beaches had to fight through Gavin's paratroopers first. Most never made it to the coast. The statistics that matter: in 4 major operations, Sicily, Normandy, Holland, and the Bulge, Gavin's 82nd Airborne engaged and defeated elements of 23 different German divisions. They inflicted an estimated 23,000 casualties while suffering 15,847 casualties of their own. That's a 1.5 to 1 kill ratio, which doesn't sound impressive until you understand that airborne units are lightly armed infantry fighting against armor and artillery. Standard doctrine held that airborne forces couldn't withstand armored counterattacks. Gavin's division did it 4 times. After the war, captured German officers were asked which American units they feared most. The 82nd Airborne under Gavin was mentioned more than any other unit, not because of equipment, not because of numbers, but because of leadership. Gavin jumped first. His men knew he would never order them to do something he wouldn't do himself. That kind of leadership creates soldiers who don't surrender, don't retreat, don't break. The Germans learned that the hard way. Gavin became the youngest major general in the U.S. Army at age 37. He died in 1990 at age 82. The 82nd Airborne still uses his principles: lead from the front, jump first, fight first, never ask your men to do something you won't do yourself. Number 3, General Omar Bradley. Stop right here and understand this number: 1 million. Omar Bradley's 12th Army Group killed or captured 1 million enemy soldiers between June 1944 and May 1945. That's more enemy casualties than any American commander in the European theater, more than Eisenhower, more than Patton, more than anyone, and most people don't even know his name. Bradley didn't seek publicity. He didn't make dramatic speeches. He didn't wear custom uniforms or carry ivory-handled pistols. He planned operations with mathematical precision and executed them with relentless efficiency. The Germans called his operational style clockwork because Bradley's attacks came exactly when he said they would, hit exactly where he said they would, and achieved exactly what he said they would achieve. There was no chaos in Bradley's operations, no confusion, just methodical destruction of enemy forces. Operation Cobra, the breakout from Normandy, was Bradley's masterpiece. On July 25, 1944, he concentrated 1,500 heavy bombers on a 5-mile front, then sent 7 divisions through the gap. The German defensive line collapsed within 72 hours. Within a week, the entire German front in Normandy disintegrated. Within a month, Paris was liberated. German Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge committed suicide rather than report the disaster to Hitler. His replacement described Bradley's tempo as impossible to counter. By the time German commanders understood what Bradley was doing and issued orders, Bradley was already executing the next phase. In the Battle of the Bulge, Bradley identified the German main effort within 18 hours. Most commanders thought the breakthrough was a limited attack. Bradley recognized it as a major offensive and repositioned forces immediately. He gave Patton permission to counterattack from the south and reinforced the northern shoulder. By December 26, the German advance stalled. By January 25, the Bulge was eliminated. German casualties numbered 100,000, American casualties 89,000. But here's the critical difference: American losses could be replaced within a month, German losses could not. After the Bulge, Bradley pushed into Germany. His 12th Army Group encircled the Ruhr industrial region, and 325,000 German soldiers surrendered in one operation, the largest mass surrender in German military history. It happened because Bradley surrounded them so efficiently that resistance was pointless. That's the difference between good generals and great generals. Good generals win battles. Great generals make the enemy realize fighting is futile. Bradley retired as a 5-star general. He died in 1981 at age 88. He wrote one memoir, which sold moderately. No Hollywood movie, no dramatic legacy, just the quiet record of the man who killed more German soldiers than any other American commander through simple, relentless competence. The Germans didn't fear Bradley because he was aggressive. They feared him because he never made mistakes they could exploit. Number 2, General George Patton. Yes, number 2, not number 1. And here's why. George Patton was the most aggressive American general in World War II. His Third Army inflicted 1.4 million casualties on German forces, a kill ratio of nearly 9 to 1. Those are spectacular numbers, but they came at a cost. The Third Army suffered 160,000 casualties, the highest of any American army in Europe. 27,000 Americans died under Patton's command. More dead Americans than any other army commander. The question isn't whether Patton was effective, he was. The question is whether his results justified the costs. That's why he's number 2, not number 1. Let's examine the legend versus the reality. The legend says Patton was a military genius who terrified the Germans. The reality is more complicated. Patton's aggressive tactics worked. His army captured more territory than any other American force, 80,000 square miles in 9 months. His relief of Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge was operationally brilliant. Turning the Third Army 90 degrees in 48 hours required logistical genius. But Patton's casualty rates were 40% higher per day of combat than the 12th Army Group average. His attack through Lorraine in autumn 1944 caused 50,000 American casualties to advance 40 miles. The exchange ratio was 3 Germans killed for every American instead of Patton's usual 9-1. Why? Because Patton attacked fortified positions with insufficient preparation. He believed momentum mattered more than casualties. Here's the statistic that defines Patton. 21 Medals of Honor were awarded for actions under his command during the Battle of the Bulge, more than any other battle in the European theater. His soldiers performed incredible acts of courage because Patton demanded it, and they died in larger numbers because Patton accepted those costs. His philosophy was simple: speed and violence overwhelm any defense. Accept casualties if it means maintaining momentum. That philosophy produced spectacular results and terrible losses. After the Rhine crossing in March 1945, the Third Army advanced 55 miles in 48 hours, the fastest advance in military history, but it cost 12,000 American casualties in 2 days. Patton wanted to drive to Berlin, but Eisenhower stopped him for political reasons. By V-Day, the Third Army had killed or captured 1.44 million German soldiers while suffering 137,000 casualties, including 27,000 killed, the highest enemy body count in Europe and the highest American losses. That's why Patton is number 2. He won, but the price was paid in American blood. George Patton died in December 1945 from a car accident. He is buried at Luxembourg American Cemetery among his men. His grave is marked with a simple cross like thousands of others, but his is the only one tourists visit. The legend often overshadows the reality. The reality is he was the most aggressive American general, producing both the highest enemy casualties and the highest American casualties. Whether one justified the other remains debated 80 years later, but one thing is clear: he's not number 1. Enter General Douglas MacArthur. Douglas MacArthur killed more enemy soldiers than any other American commander in history while suffering proportionally fewer casualties than in any comparable operation. That's why he ranks number 1, not because of ego or self-promotion, but because of the mathematics. Between 1942 and 1945, forces under MacArthur's command killed roughly 485,000 Japanese soldiers in combat and captured another 71,000. But those numbers don't tell the whole story. MacArthur's island-hopping strategy bypassed heavily defended Japanese positions. Those bypassed garrisons, estimated at 250,000 soldiers, perished slowly from disease, starvation, and isolation. They couldn't threaten MacArthur's operations. They couldn't evacuate, they simply died. Total Japanese casualties from MacArthur's campaigns exceed 1 million when including bypassed forces. Here's why MacArthur ranks first: his casualty exchange ratio. In the Papua New Guinea campaign, MacArthur's forces suffered 24,000 casualties. Japanese forces lost 160,000 soldiers, a 6.6 to 1 ratio. In the Philippines campaign, American casualties totaled 62,000, including 14,000 killed, while Japanese casualties reached 336,000, including 267,000 killed, a 5.4 to 1 ratio. Compare that to island assaults like Iwo Jima, where American forces suffered 26,000 casualties to kill 18,000 Japanese. MacArthur's strategy produced superior results at lower costs because he didn't fight where the enemy was strong. He struck where they were weak, cut supply lines, and let them starve. The island-hopping approach was revolutionary. Previous Pacific campaigns tried to capture every island. MacArthur realized that was unnecessary. Take the airfields, take the ports, bypass everything else. Japanese garrisons on bypassed islands couldn't impact American operations. They had no ships, no aircraft, no resupply. They were militarily irrelevant. So MacArthur left them. By war's end, over 250,000 Japanese soldiers were isolated on islands across the Pacific. Most perished from starvation and disease. Brutal, absolutely effective. Undeniably, MacArthur minimized American casualties by maximizing Japanese attrition through isolation. Critics of MacArthur argue he was self-aggrandizing and glory-seeking. That's true, he awarded himself more medals than any American general in history, staged photographs carefully, and cultivated a personality cult. Yet beneath the theatrics lay genuine strategic brilliance. His coordination of air, naval, and ground forces across thousands of miles of ocean was the most sophisticated operation of the war. His logistics system supported 2 million troops operating simultaneously across the Pacific, and casualty rates proved that aggressive strategy didn't require massive losses. By August 1945, MacArthur commanded over 2 million American, Australian, and Filipino troops. He accepted Japan's surrender on September 2, 1945, then became Supreme Commander overseeing Japan's occupation and reconstruction. He transformed Japan from a militaristic empire into a democratic ally. Land reform, women's suffrage, economic reconstruction. The modern US-Japan alliance exists because MacArthur got occupation policy right. MacArthur's military career ended in 1951 when President Truman dismissed him for insubordination during the Korean War. He delivered his famous "Old Soldiers Never Die" speech and retired. He died in 1964 at age 84. Love him or hate him, Douglas MacArthur was the most feared American general of World War II because he killed more enemy soldiers while losing fewer of his own than any other commander in history. That's not opinion, that's mathematics. Let's add it all up. Truscott, 57,000 enemy killed. Gavin, 23,000. Bradley, 1 million. Patton, 1,400,000. MacArthur, 1,500,000. Total, 3,530,000 enemy soldiers eliminated by these 5 commanders. Over 3.5 million. That's more losses than the entire German army suffered on the Eastern Front in 1943. 5 American generals, 3.5 million enemy dead. The Axis powers quickly learned that American generalship wasn't about sheer numbers or equipment, it was about leadership that refused to acknowledge defeat. But here's the real question. Did we rank them correctly? Should Patton have been higher? Should Bradley claim the top spot? Drop a comment and share your own ranking. Tell us who we overlooked, who doesn't belong, and where you're watching from. Our community stretches across the globe, and you're part of what makes this channel thrive. If this ranking reshaped how you view World War II, smash that like button. Every like signals to YouTube that viewers want content like this. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our in-depth explorations of military history. More rankings are coming, more overlooked stories, more history that doesn't appear in textbooks. Thank you for watching. These generals deserve to be remembered for what they truly accomplished, not the versions Hollywood created. We'll see you in the next video.